You're listening to Upstream by Integra, conversations on the future of scholarly and education publishing. This series brings together senior leaders to explore how publishing is evolving, from workflows to systems, from processes to infrastructure, and from scale to responsibility. The future of publishing isn't built downstream, it's designed upstream. Hosted by Ashutosh Ghildiyal.
Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Ashutosh Ghildiyal. Scholarly publishing is undergoing a period of transformation while also facing a fundamental value challenge. To better understand where the industry is headed, we are speaking with some of its brightest minds, senior leaders who are helping their organizations navigate change and shape the future of scholarly publishing. And for this inaugural episode, I couldn't have asked for a better guest. Dawn Melley is Senior Director of Publishing Operations at IEEE, the world's largest technical and professional society. Dawn oversees a portfolio of more than 200 IEEE journals, including many of its flagship publications. With more than 2 decades of experience in scholarly publishing, Dawn has witnessed multiple waves of change, giving her a unique perspective on the opportunities and challenges facing our industry today. In our conversation, we discuss some of those challenges and opportunities and how publishers can continue to create and demonstrate value in a rapidly changing landscape. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Dawn Melley. Dawn, welcome to Upstream by Integra. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Dawn. We prepared quite a lot of questions for you, and I look forward to hearing more of your perspective on these questions. And the first question that I would like to start with is that, you're a senior leader in the industry and you've spent so many years, and I see that you're also involved with a lot of industry initiatives, such as you're on the chair of the board of Chorus, and you've had a rich and an exciting journey over the last 2 decades, I believe. And could you please share a bit about your journey in publishing and at IEEE, and how did you come to play the role that you're in today?
Sure. Well, I started at IEEE as the Director of Editorial Services in 2000 after 11 years with Thomson Reuters and 3 years with Reed Elsevier. So my background prepared me for everything that I do at the IEEE, and everything that I do at the IEEE has changed greatly over the years, keeping me busy and interested. My current role is Senior Director of Publishing Operations, and I started that role in 2017. So just briefly, I'm responsible for publishing services in support of over 250 periodicals, and
Wow.
my responsibilities span from peer review tools through to support and delivery of content to our digital library, IEEE Explore. And I'm
Okay.
also responsible for delivery of over 2,000 conference proceedings to Explore. And finally, I serve as publisher for our flagship journal, Proceedings of the IEEE, for IEEE Access, our multidisciplinary open access journal, and for IEEE Press, our book program. So my span of control, so to speak, is fairly broad at the IEEE, and it does get me involved in many different things over the course of the publishing process.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really a broad range of things that you are doing at IEEE. And as you look at how the publishing program is right now, what are the priorities that are most on your mind?
I don't think that IEEE and our publishing program is really unique in any way, except maybe for our scale. We're very large for a society publisher, of course, but I think we're all thinking about the same things in STM publishing: quality and integrity, peer review sustainability, leveraging AI and editorial workflows, and improving the publishing process for all of our stakeholders. So from authors and reviewers to editors and conference organizers. We all have the same challenges, and I think we'll probably get into them more as the rest of this
Yes.
podcast continues.
Yeah, and that brings me to the question related to the IEEE Publishing Portal and
Mhm.
connected work. And you mentioned that this is a strategic initiative for IEEE. And could you tell us what led to this? What problems or opportunity were you trying to address for authors, reviewers, and editors? And how do you see it changing the publishing experience for people who interact with IEEE? And I know I've been reading a little bit on IEEE. I know this is not the first time IEEE has taken such initiatives. I think there's also the Author Center that was
Mhm.
set up along similar lines. So it feels like you've been gradually building towards this.
We have. So IEEE, as the IEEE publishing program as a whole, does regular strategic planning every 5 years. I think it's a fairly typical time frame. And the
Right.
publishing portal actually came out of a strategic planning activity that we completed in 2019. And it was in
Okay.
response to a need to increase our efficiency, our speed, and our flexibility over our large and fairly diverse portfolio. Um,
Hmm.
it was partially driven by the need to adopt uniform workflows in response to challenges of scale and volume, which is affecting all STM publishers. And it's a little bit more complicated at IEEE because we have traditionally a distributed management of our portfolio across
Yeah.
47 technical groups and 10 geographic regions.
Right.
But the primary goal is of the portal is to improve the user experience for authors, editors, reviewers, conference organizers, and other stakeholders. So that would lead to increased participation and improved metrics across the entire portfolio. So we're killing,
Yeah.
I don't know, 5 or 6 birds with one stone, hopefully, in the publishing portal project.
Yeah. And do you see this as part of a broader move towards a more connected end-to-end publishing workflow, where the different stages of the process are more integrated rather than siloed?
I mean, I think it's exactly that. It's our all in effort to provide a connected end to end seamless publishing workflow for all of our participants. We provide access to guidance tools and other resources directly where and when they are needed. Many of the participants in our publishing program play multiple roles and are repeat contributors. So that was a recurring theme in our strategic planning. For example, an author could be a reviewer for a journal or a conference. A journal editor could also be a technical program coordinator for a conference. The idea of the portal is to give the person playing these multiple roles one place to go to complete tasks for each role. I mean, it also provides a way to provide all of our publishing outlets with the same tools and resources and and therefore give them access to the better tools and resources as they become available. So multiple facets to this project. One is people
Mhm.
centered, one is tool centered, and one is really sort of overall management and efficiency
Yeah.
centered.
Yeah. And yeah, that's and I know we're going to talk about this later, but this is also very relevant to community engagement because, like you mentioned,
Mhm.
IEEE is such a large community, and community is like a core asset for IEEE, and doing this kind of strategic initiatives really helps to engage that community.
Yeah, it's a large community and diverse community. And I don't know that outsiders appreciate. There is one IEEE, but the groups within all have their
Yeah,
own identities and their own priorities
right,
and their own sort of way of working that they've become accustomed to in within that community.
right, right. And yeah, I totally agree. You know, when doing research on IEEE, there is so much, right? It has so many different facets, different divisions, and so on. And also, IEEE is, I believe, it's a very, very strong brand, especially if I look at uh, countries like India or China. IEEE is very well known. Even somebody who's not probably from the industry or a researcher would still have heard about IEEE. So the IEEE brand is quite big, and it resonates across people from different industries and domains as well.
Yes, absolutely. And we like it that way, right? I mean, it is a strong brand, but a lot of hard
Yeah.
work goes into making it a strong brand.
Right, right. And I wanted to get your thoughts on some of the more pressing challenges that the industry is facing. You touched upon it earlier. And these challenges primarily are arising out of scale, the scale of publishing, the way it's grown and continues to grow. And AI is the conversation that everybody's is having right now. There's AI, and the other topic is research integrity, which also you touched upon. And we are also now hearing increasingly about issues around peer review integrity, because AI is also not only present in the writing space, but also in the peer review space. And there also a lot of interesting discussions and developments are happening.
Mhm.
From IEEE's perspective, how are you thinking about, what's your thinking about AI in publishing, and what do you see as the role of human expertise going forward when AI kind of becomes ubiquitous?
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head. Scale is a major challenge right now. At IEEE, we've seen submission growth rates exceed 20% for the past 3 years. And that's
Yeah.
combined with a declining acceptance rate. And, that
Mm,
means there's a lot more to screen on the way in because, of course,
right,
we can't add human resources quickly enough, assuming they're even available. It means
right.
that our screening process needs to become way more robust to keep up. So, one of the things we talk about a lot is how we need to use our valuable volunteer editors and reviewers on the best submissions to ensure that we maintain quality of the content we publish. Not to mention the scholarly record overall. IEEE publishes a significant amount of content in electrical engineering and
Mm,
computer science. So while there's no doubt that the use of AI by researchers and unfortunately bad actors has contributed to the increase in submissions, I
yeah.
think it can also be used to more effectively screen them. So with that in mind, we're focused on both building AI enabled tools in house and rapidly piloting and rolling out commercially available tools. For example, the STM Integrity Hub. IEEE is very involved in the STM Integrity Hub, both using it and developing it. We have people participating in a number of those STM committees. Um, and I would say that although misconduct detection has been an early area of focus in the implementation of AI, we're also looking
Yeah.
at tools in the peer review process to help editors determine things like scope fit, to validate references and algorithms, and also to support open science practices, like through the review of code and data. So,
Okay.
and as far as humans in the loop, which is a popular phrase and was a popular phrase at the conference I attended recently, in all
Hmm.
circumstances in which AI enabled tools are used, any actions that follow from the use of those tools are determined through active human intervention and expertise,
Yeah.
always.
And do you think the scholarly publishing community is moving fast enough in defining principles and norms for responsible AI use, or are we behind where we should be?
I think, I think we're always going to be a step behind because the AI is evolving so quickly. I think at IEEE, one of our unique challenges is that many of the volunteers we work with on our on our publications board, for example, are computer scientists and are working in the area of AI. So they know way more about where it's going and what it's doing than we do. So
Yeah.
that's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in that, we might have more insight into what might be coming next, but it also makes policy challenging because we have to make sure that we're writing policy that doesn't inhibit the use of AI in the communities
Yeah.
that are specializing in it. So I think from the outside, authors might find our policies wanting in specificity, right? So an author wants a rule. What do I do? When do I do it? What can't I do? But it's hard to do that for AI right now. So we're trying to to find the balance there to come up with policies that allow the use of AI while not allowing the inappropriate use of AI. So recently we've started looking at more of an approach of, okay, AI is there, it's going to be used. We need to focus on the fact that there's still a human who's responsible for whatever it is that, we've gotten for consideration for publication, whether or not AI was used. So we're trying
Mhm.
to sort of pivot from how do we detect AI generated text to how do we ensure that there are people behind a submission that are responsible for its content, however that content was
Right.
created?
Right. So it's more about detecting integrity and rigor in research rather than preventing the use of AI.
Right. And, something that I don't know that we can get too deeply in, but is to adopt the trust markers at the front of the process that the STM group, there's an STM group working on that. What trust markers can
Right.
we put in place so that we know going in that the person we're dealing with is who we think they are and they are reliable and they are responsible. And once
Right.
we can get that sort of more upfront, I think that we'll have fewer challenges in screening upon submission.
Right. I think overall the issue of AI is relatively new, and the industry is still trying to figure things out. It's we can say it's like in research and understanding mode.
Hmm.
And I believe I'm quite positive that soon, maybe in some time, we will get more clarity on some of these things, and so will the peer reviewers and the authors on how AI should be used and what's their responsibility when using AI.
Yeah. I mean, to some degree, I see AI as I might have seen other technological advances 10 or 20 years ago. It's another way to make even better tools, right? Minimally.
Yeah.
So, and it's ready for that. The tools that are in the market are developing quickly. They're becoming way more usable and reliable. So, in that
Right.
sense, AI isn't intimidating or frightening. And I think we need to take advantage of it, to leverage it, to understand it. And as I was saying before, I think, the IEEE publishing staff has some advantage there, and that we do work closely with these scientists and researchers who are out there developing AI.
Right. Right. And that brings me to my next question, which is about the people who make publishing happen, the volunteers, the peer reviewers, the editorial community, and scholarly publishing rests heavily on their work And if we
Mm.
look at reviewers who manage the most critical process of peer review, in many ways, peer review could be said to be the core process of scholarly publishing, scholarly journal publishing. And at the same time, like we said, scale is producing a lot of challenges, such as reviewer fatigue and questions of AI and peer review. We discussed this a little bit, touched upon it on the question related to AI. And there's also the broader global editorial community that is responsible for upholding standards, maintaining quality, and like I mentioned, IEEE is a very respected name within its community, and that is one of its strengths. And I want to understand a little bit more about what we've already about how you think about engaging and supporting and motivating that community.
Yeah. So, I mean, IEEE's volunteers are amazing people. They're from all over the world. They have many different backgrounds and areas of expertise. All of the projects we've touched upon so far that I've described are done with our volunteer partners. And, we rely on that direct connection with the researcher community to ensure that we are developing our publishing program and processes in a way that best meets their needs as scientists.
Yeah.
All of the volunteers we work with care about their communities and the mission of IEEE, which is to advance technology for the benefit of humanity. And they care about it deeply and devote time to ensure IEEE's success. I mean, I think that, in my day, I would say that the volunteers motivate the IEEE staff rather than the other way around, because, with people who care so deeply about the mission of the organization you work for,
Yeah.
how do you not do your best for them, right? They're all very busy people devoting sometimes quite a bit of time to the IEEE. So, they're self-motivated. They wouldn't be working with us if they didn't care. And so I think we owe it to them to provide the best experience we can for them in whatever role they're playing with IEEE.
Yeah. And this brings me to the last question that I have. And this is also a question that I'm personally the most interested in. And I've also written about it a little bit. And that is basically scholarly publishing and its place in the ecosystem of publishing. As we know, scholarly publishing, it doesn't exist in isolation. It depends on a whole system of publishers, funders, infrastructure, organizations, standard bodies, and so on. And some interesting discussions uh, around this have happened on how the ecosystem needs to work together within the community, particularly in the scholarly kitchen. And we've had some thoughtful conversations there. And recently, there was also an article just a few days ago discussing the results of a pulse check survey on the need for advocacy with policymakers. And I'll just read one part of it. So it says that policymaker engagement is the clearest shared priority, and AI governance has emerged as urgent time sensitive opportunity. At the same time, research integrity remains the community's most universally held concern. Organizations of all sizes cite staff capacity as the primary obstacle to deeper engagement. So, what they are basically saying, the gist of the article, the conclusion of the article, is that the industry should work more on advocacy and have greater industry-wide collaboration to address some of these challenges. So I wanted to ask you, how do you see this? And do you agree that there's a growing need for industry collaboration around these issues? And how does IEEE engage with the broader ecosystem? And where do you see the greatest opportunities for the industry to make progress together?
Yeah, I mean, I think to speak to your general point, I think that STM publishers have struggled for as long as I've been in STM publishing to explain what they do and to clearly
Yeah,
articulate the value proposition. And yes, that's become more urgent than it ever has been. And IEEE staff, we follow the lead of our volunteers, and IEEE is very
okay.
supportive of us in doing that. So many of us volunteer our time to support industry-wide organizations like STM, where my boss, our chief publishing officer, is the current chair of STM.
Uh,
Um, and we rely on groups like that for advocacy. In addition to, IEEE has its own US advocacy arm. It's called IEEE USA. And so, we work with STM. You mentioned before, I'm the chair of Chorus, and,
yeah,
Chorus does a lot of work to convene publishers, funders, and institutions, all stakeholders, to have roundtables to discuss some of the issues we've been talking about today, to encourage
yeah,
open communication and cooperation. Um, we're also members of COPE, SSP, and ALPSP. Um, I mean, I think I think progress is at this point going to rely on collaboration. So you've probably heard Caroline Sutton, the head of STM, say that, and I'm going to paraphrase, but she often says that we live in challenging times, but it has
yeah,
encouraged collaboration across stakeholder groups like never before, right?
right.
Uh, you know, uh, Publishers sitting down with librarians and others who are normally across the table from each other are now on the same side of the table, advocating for similar things. And I think, among publishers anyway, the STM Integrity Hub is a great example of collaboration. That's not something that would have happened 10 years ago. And it's a
Yeah,
very effective collection of tools. And what makes it most effective is cross-publisher action. So, I think, yes, it's critical advocacy, and that we aren't typically good at it, but hopefully, in collaborating through organizations like the ones I've mentioned, will
yeah.
become more effective as time goes on.
Yeah, and I think we can also already see signs of that in the increased conference participation. I mean, compared to a few years ago, I see so many conferences where people are having great discussions and great participation. And I see a lot of that on social media and elsewhere. Scholarly Kitchen also, like I mentioned, we've been discussing a lot of these issues. People have been writing about it.
Mhm.
And a lot of conferences which have come up in the recent years, around this. Like I was just looking at, we were talking about CSE earlier. The CSE this year, appeared to have really had a lot of rich discussions. So people are
Mhm.
willing to collaborate. People are looking forward to discussing issues and learning from each other. Same thing around CSE. I think there was this conference on World Conference on Research Integrity, WCRI. That also, I got a lot of feedback. I saw a lot of news where people had a lot of engaging discussions, and one of the things that I noticed was that IOP also presented one of their studies where they did some pilot about peer review, about detecting the use duplicate peer review
Right.
duplicate peer reviews and the use of AI in peer reviews. So a lot of these things are happening, and it's great to see these conferences and these discussion bringing such fruit that helps us move forward.
Yeah. IEEE had people at the WCRI, as we have for a number of years now. And, behind
Yeah,
the scenes, we're talking to especially our society publisher colleagues about the challenges
yeah,
they're facing and how they're approaching them. And there have been some great conversations and opportunities for collaboration that come out of those conversations in the hallways at conferences.
yeah. So we are coming to the end of our conversation, Dawn, and thank you so much for sharing all these insights and your perspective. And since we want to end on a positive reflection, I wanted to ask you that if we were to have this conversation again in 5 years, what changes would you hope to see that would make you feel that the scholarly publishing ecosystem has made real progress and is moving in the right direction with more sustainable growth?
It's an interesting question, but yeah, the publishing ecosystem is changing so rapidly right now that I think it's difficult to say where we'll be, even in a time frame as short as 5 years. And unfortunately, my crystal ball is currently out of order. But I would say I'm hoping to see increased collaboration among publishers, continued increased
Yeah,
collaboration, and an ecosystem that is stronger than ever in ensuring quality of the scholarly record. I think in times like this, it's important that we double down on our core strengths and our core value proposition. And if we do that hard work over the next 5 years, we should come out of it stronger than we were before. And that's what I hope for.
yeah. Thank you so much, Dawn. What I take away from this conversation is that scale can be a problem, but with the emerging technologies and the right collaboration, we can solve the problems that come with scale. And I see that IEEE is doing that, and you're working on getting the best submissions and making sure that the scholarly record remains of the highest quality and integrity. And the other thing I understand from our conversation is that collaboration is increasingly important. We can solve a lot of issues, and I see a lot of progress being made from with organizations like SSP and STM. They're working in this direction, and STM Integrity Hub is a great example of that collaboration
Mhm.
that benefits everyone. And so I look forward to having more discussions with you in the future around this. And thank you so much, Dawn, for
No,
sharing your perspective. This has been exactly the kind of conversation that Upstream by Integra was designed for, thoughtful, grounded, and focused on the things that actually matter.
oh,
And
great.
thank you.
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to have this conversation. And it was a great time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank you for listening to Upstream by Integra. If this conversation resonated, you can subscribe for future episodes.